Washington 9. Ali, left side into the 5. He's in for a touchdown. Sheehan Ali. And the Ravens strike on a 13-play scoring drive to open the preseason finale.
So being honest, I did not watch the game on Saturday live. I did watch the condensed version late last night when I got back into town. And that guy, number 26 for the Ravens, Max, Sheehan Ali, I thought he was the most impressive player on the field. For what it's worth, he's a second-year running back from Marshall. He apparently is teetering. If they keep 4 backs, he'll be the 4th. If not, he's probably on the practice squad. Somebody should look into number 26 for Baltimore. Good morning, everybody. We are into a week in which we lead into Labor Day weekend, the first real college football weekend of the season, featuring heavyweight games, man. Texas, Ohio State next week at noon, and then Clemson hosting LSU Saturday night. Yeah, there is some really good football coming up this weekend. The Iowa State, Kansas State game from Dublin was a pretty good first football game of the year. I wagered on Hawaii the other night, laying 2.5 against Stanford. They had a walk-off field goal to win by 3. I did not give it out as a smell test selection, but the point spread moved 5 points in total over about a 2-week period. So some sharps thought that Hawaii was the right side. Turns out they were correct on this one. This from Dan. Actually, let me just mention, Ben Standig on the show today at 12. We'll talk 53-man projection. The cut down is 4 o'clock tomorrow, and you'll hear my conversation, some of it with Stanford Steve, previewing the college football season a little bit later on in the show. This from Dan. Dan writes, Kevin, I agree with you on the preseason, but getting smoked in 3 games by 71 total points should make us pause, don't you think? Question mark. Doesn't it say something about the team's readiness? Question mark. I'll hang up and listen. Thank you, Dan, for that. Dan, your math is correct. The team in the 3 losses in the preseason got outscored 109-38. That is kind of hard to do, in the preseason. But it's not as hard when you decide not to play anybody. And that's what this team did. This team played on offense anyway, its primary starters, including its quarterback, for 4 snaps. 4. So I don't personally think it says much about anything. I think, if you want to go to you should be concerned about their depth because their depth got shredded in these games by others, other teams. The New England starters, for the most part, to a certain extent, the Cincinnati starters and backups, but then not so much with the Ravens, obviously. Lamar Jackson was not on the field on Saturday afternoon. No, I think you guys know my opinion on all of this. I don't think any of it anymore translates to the regular season. The things that matter this time of year are health, and then things like contract negotiations with players who are hold-ins, and that particular hold-in was present Saturday at Northwest Field in Landover for the final preseason game. He was not there on Monday night for the Cincinnati game. He did not look like a happy camper, that's for sure. We will get to that, I promise you, on what appeared to be an isolated Terry McLaurin on the team's bench. That can be a little bit tricky because we don't see watching on TV unless you were there at the game. I don't know why you would be for a preseason 3rd game. But if you were, bless your heart, and maybe you were watching the Terry McLaurin back and forth with teammates and saw a lot more interaction. But we'll get to that because I do want your thoughts on what that said to you and where the current state of Terry and team are. But in terms of these 3 preseason games and losing 3 by an average of basically 24 points per game, just doesn't mean much to me. I don't think that there is any sort of state of panic or state of concern in Ashburn. They didn't play the players who are going to play in the games for the most part. We saw some players. We saw Chris Rodriguez out there on Saturday against Baltimore. I just will tell you, I don't think, based on just a couple of conversations that I had, because I was actually interested in the fact that Bill Merritt, Krosky Merritt, was actually not, in the game on Saturday, but Chris Rodriguez was. Could that be a tell that really it's Krosky Merritt that they are targeting as the number one back for the opener against the Giants, and the guy that will be the lead back for the replacement, Brian Robinson Jr., as a replacement for Brian Robinson Jr., who did get traded after the show the other day. And I thought, by the way, I'll just interject on this right now, I thought Adam Peters did well to get a 6th-round pick back for Brian Robinson Jr. Clearly, that means more than one team was interested, because if there weren't more than one team interested, then the 49ers would have just waited perhaps for him to get cut, although they wouldn't have had the first choice off the waiver wires. So that doesn't automatically mean that more than one team was interested. Remember, with the Carson Wentz trade, which was just an absolute fleecing a few years ago when Washington and Indy got together for that deal, it was very apparent to most of the league that Carson Wentz was going to get released from the team in Indianapolis. And Washington traded a lot for him anyway and picked up, which was the biggest sin of the deal, which was picking up the entirety of the contract rather than making Indy eat at least half of it. This was not the sharpest personnel group, management group under Rivera. Rivera always was a decent coach. I know most of you don't agree with that, but it is true. Ron Rivera was always a decent coach wherever he was. I think he was kind of checked out here towards the end, but as a general manager, it was an utter disaster. Jamin Davis got released over the weekend. If you were paying attention to that, just the hits keep coming with his drafts while he was here as, the dual purposed head coach and general manager. But I thought Adam Peters did well. Look, there is some risk with this. This is what I've said about Brian Robinson Jr. for a while now. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's terrible. I know that a lot of the advanced numbers are not very kind to him, whether it's DVOA or a few others. But I've never thought of Brian Robinson Jr. as being a terrible back. I've thought of him as being somewhere in the middle of the pack of the primary lead backs in the NFL. Far from being the best you can get, and they should have always been looking to upgrade on that position. But when you trade with the 49ers, you are trading with a team that knows running backs. Kyle Shanahan knows running backs. That guy Garendo, the guy Jordan James that they drafted, it'll be interesting to see what he is. But, you're taking a guy that's pretty good. Okay. Let's just say, he is a middle of the pack starting running back in the NFL. And you're rolling the dice on some guys that you clearly believe in. And I'm with them on this. I'm totally fine with it. I thought right when the season ended last year, there was a good chance they would try to replace Brian Robinson Jr. They didn't replace him with a high draft choice, a night 2 pick or an early day 3 pick. But they had Chris Rodriguez coming back, and they clearly feel like Rodriguez and his conditioning efforts have improved. The maturity's improved because clearly he's got some running skills. And I thought he looked good against Baltimore's backups the other day. But I was kind of given an indication that Krosky Merritt, they may have just been kind of protecting him, injury-wise. He had the shoulder from a few weeks ago. Then he played last week into the second half on Monday night. But to turn him around so quickly on a very short week, they felt like it was better to rest him since he did have that injury. And Chris Rodriguez got 5 carries for 30-some yards and actually looked really good. Some gaping holes. I don't know that there's a lot to read into that, is what I'm saying about who will be the starting running back, the guy in the huddle on the first and 10 of the season, 2 weeks from yesterday on September 7th against the Giants. It could be, like we've talked about, it could be a by committee situation where both Rodriguez and Krosky merit, along with Debo getting some carries, along with Eckler getting some carries, that they just, it'll be a fluid situation until maybe somebody takes that job because of performance, or maybe we see, a mixing and matching all season long. We'll see. But with Brian Robinson Jr., there is some risk that you don't get the performance that you got from Brian Robinson Jr., but it's not worth the $3.4 million, and by the way, turning down what they ended up getting, which is a 6th round pick. So I think Adam Peters did well on that. But overall, the preseason, thankfully, is over. It is dreadful. And the discussion around it for every team, and nationally, just about the league. I mean, have you seen this stuff coming out about Shedeur Sanders, that somehow the Browns and Kevin Stefanski are sabotaging Shedeur Sanders? Lots of racial allegations with this one. Meantime, the quarterback that came in for him is black, Tyler Huntley. Think about the Browns. I was talking to a friend of mine about this last night because he brought it up to me. He said, have you been following this Shedeur Sanders thing? And then I kind of went online and got caught up. And I guess he was pretty horrendous after being pretty good in the first preseason game. 5 sacks in like 14 snaps or whatever it was. But, it's preseason and they're not game planning, and he's playing with backups and against backups. I mean, it's really, they know what Shedeur Sanders is based on what they've seen in practices, more so than even in the games. And they had an evaluation of him coming out. But this is a franchise that gave Deshaun Watson, off of 40-some, allegations of sexual assault, the largest guaranteed contract in the history of the league. Yeah, I don't think that's the issue. This is some of the silly season, August conversation that I guess you have to try to generate a reaction on social media or elsewhere. I think Shedeur Sanders is a guy who was evaluated by much of the NFL as a player that was not worthy of going in the first round, maybe worthy of going on night 2 at some point. But was the juice worth the squeeze? And this is a perfect example of, was the juice worth the squeeze? Not at a 2nd or 3rd round level. Not if you're going to have this over preseason action. Stefanski's, calling terrible plays for him. He's got the wrong guys. No, he had the 3rd stringers and the 4th stringers in there because that's what Shedeur Sanders is. Insane conversation around Shedeur Sanders. I have no idea if Shedeur Sanders is going to be an NFL quarterback. I was not a big fan of him coming out. I thought he held it too long. I thought he didn't see it quickly enough. I do think he throws a pretty ball. I think he is a better sort of off-schedule playmaker than maybe his athleticism gets credit for, because he's not super athletic, not like his father by any stretch of the imagination. In most situations, a 5th round pick, there would be zero discussion about this. But Cleveland knew. And remember, Dylan Gabriel, who apparently was in there with higher level depth chart guys, was actually higher on the depth chart than Shedeur Sanders, was drafted 2 rounds before Shedeur Sanders. We're not going to know about Shedeur Sanders for a while. And even if Cleveland were to release him, that would be a stunner. And that would be a headline maker. Somebody will give him an opportunity. And even if he got released and had to go to the CFL, and years on quarterbacks, man, takes a long time to know for sure. On a lot of them. On some of them, it doesn't take much time. I'll tell you what, man, I don't think it takes much time to know on Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman doesn't look like an NFL caliber quarterback because of his arm. You got to be able to throw the football at the NFL level to a certain, standard, or doesn't matter all the other stuff you're able to do. I have some thoughts actually from the game. I have some notes on the game that I'm going to rip through them very quickly. And then we'll get to with Ben, the 53-man, projection, because Ben's really into it. And those back end decisions will be interesting for sure. again, I thought the most impressive player, and I would keep an eye on this guy, Sheehan Ali, the running back, because the Ravens, I think Ravens fans actually understand he's really talented. But remember, they've got Keaton Mitchell back in Baltimore as well off that serious knee injury from, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And so there may not be a spot. This guy is an NFL back. You can tell, and you can tell if you look back and watch some of the film from him. So I thought Rodriguez, looked good for whatever it's worth. He's got better vision than I think people give him credit for. He's obviously a good power back. It's going to be tough for that first contact to bring him down more times than not. I like Chris Rodriguez. I think we all do. Number 51 keeps, I mentioned him last week. I don't know if he's going to make the team. I'll ask Ben if he's going to make the team. But I think number 51, Cahill, the linebacker, remember, Max, I said, I don't know who that is, but he really kind of stood out in the game against Cincinnati. I thought he stood out again.
Yeah, Dan Quinn thought the same. He mentioned it in his presser, too.
He did? I haven't heard Quinn's press conference.
They're big fans of Ali Cahill right now.
Okay, so that guy just has a level of energy and a level of bringing it as a tackler that I love. Neither team tackled very well early in the game. I see what they see in Jordan McGee. Jordan McGee, number 58, was on the field. You can see what they're excited about with Jordan McGee. He's instinctive, he's athletic, and he will tackle. He's got to stay healthy to get those opportunities on the field. I like number 16, the receiver. I liked him in that first game. I liked him the other day. I think he looks like an NFL receiver. That's all you can say, because he's not playing against guys who are going to be in the NFL. I just think his size and his hands and the way he comes out of breaks, the way he attacks the ball, he looks to me like an NFL receiver, Ja'Cory Brooks out of Louisville. Remember, they gave him some cash as an undrafted free agent. I don't know if there's going to be a spot on the team for him or not. Yankoff, number 41, who had the one really interesting play of the game, the 52-yard catch and run in the first half. He's very athletic. He played quarterback. There's a lot of things that Yankoff, I think, can do, and I think it's one of the reasons he's still with them. I think they believe that there's something there with Yankoff. Will that cost Sinnott his job? I don't think so. I think Sinnott makes the final roster. But I would not think that this would be a group that would cut ties with a player quickly, even if they drafted him and had belief in the player, if they now know after 2 off seasons he can't play. And I'm looking at Sinnott. I'm looking at McCaffrey. I don't think they're going to end up coming to those conclusions certainly not based on the preseason games. Luke McCaffrey got a number of touches in the game. I don't know. Luke McCaffrey last year when he was in there appeared to at times get separation, but I know that they don't think his route running is refined yet or polished yet, but we'll see. Who else did I write down from the game? I mean, again, Hartman, I just don't see him. He's not a third string quarterback. Is Josh Johnson the third string quarterback? I tell you one thing, and remind me of this, Max. We need to ask Ben about Mariota's health. Is Mariota going to be ready for the opener against the Giants? Because if not, who do you go into that game as a backup? It would have to be Josh Johnson. It would have to be, unless they're going to sign somebody. I saw somebody tweet out, and I don't know who it was, that Jeff Driscoll, who, remember, was the backup early in the season last year because Mariota was banged up as well, that he's not been signed by anybody. I mean, they could technically bring him back if they are uncomfortable with Hartman and Johnson and Mariota isn't ready to go. Got to have a backup quarterback, people, in the NFL. You have to have one. Mariota is more than an acceptable backup. He's a low-end starter for still, I think, in this league. Very low-end, very back, bottom quarter of the league. But if he's not ready, Be interesting. Oh, one other thing, obviously, Matt Gay missed a long field goal. Made one, missed one. Look, they gave him basically $4.5 million. He's going to get an opportunity in the regular season. If you're thinking they're going to bring in some challengers here over the final week and a half, they might, but they're going with Matt Gay unless something's wrong with him. And they're going to give him, regular season games before they, start seriously thinking about replacing him. They liked him. They gave him, basically 4.5 guaranteed. And he's going to be their kicker. I'd be shocked unless they've noticed something that's wrong. But he did nail the 47-yarder. So what did that make him? He missed 2 in the preseason, right? I think it made him 2 for 4 in the preseason, right?
Sounds right.
He missed one against the Patriots, and then he made one last week, a short one last week, didn't miss one last week, and then he missed one and made one yesterday. So he said 4 attempts. I think it's 2 for 4 in the preseason. But, as important is what did he do in, how did he look when he was out there practicing? How are his kickoffs? Because this year the team got a head start on this. They forced returns last year kicking into the landing zone. They wanted to establish a physicality about their team with special teams, and they did that last year, I thought, successfully. All right. There are 2 topics here today. One is, number one, does anything alarm you about getting outscored by 71 points in 3 preseason games? For me, the answer is nada. If you want to weigh in on that, that's fine. But to me, the big topic is still Terry McLaurin. So he shows up for the game on Saturday. You see a couple of those shots with him sort of isolated on the bench, except for Bobby Wagner. He did not have the most joyous of expressions when the camera hit him. Now, again, this is tricky. We're not sitting there watching the entire Terry McLaurin experience on the bench, during this final preseason game, unless you are there with binoculars on him, or just watching him from the stadium. Adam Schefter again this morning on Get Up on the show with Greenberg suggested that they are no closer than they have been. I think Albert Breer the other day said that there has been progress made. Believe what you want to believe. My belief is if it doesn't happen this week or by, say, the end of this upcoming weekend, and that would include Labor Day, that the offer gets pulled and they say, it's time for you to either play or not play, but the offer's done. This has, gotten to the point where you can see, I think I'm feeling that Terry has gone from hurt, probably from frustration and anger to hurt, which we heard during the Eastern Motors press conference, to a belief that hurt would be, satisfied because early on it seemed like there were a lot of people in his corner and he was out for the first days of camp and fans were going nuts. But, if you're on social media, and he shouldn't be, but the tide has turned. I don't think there's any question about it. I think that the number of fans that are now, upset with him, that number has grown significantly from those early days of training camp on, July 22nd, that particular week, the Wednesday and Thursday of that week. And I think now he is feeling true hurt and maybe even like, hey, am I messing this up? He is messing it up big time, in my opinion. He and his agent, I have to be very specific to that, because his agent, Buddy Baker, I think has played this all wrong. You cannot give your client and then the team you're negotiating with the thought that you're not coming off the belief that he's an elite receiver in the league, that age 30 doesn't matter. And, oh, by the way, do you know what he's done for this organization over the last several years? That was not a hand that was received very well. And from that moment, even if you want to believe that Washington's first offer was too low, Washington has a belief on what his value is. You know, Mike Giannetti, who runs Spot Rack, the site that tracks all player contracts, tracks the salary cap numbers, per team. He put out a tweet the other day. It was after the show, in which he believes essentially fair market value for Terry McLaurin is 3 years, $82.5 million, $27.5 million a year. And that would be that would be with 50 million guaranteed, which is exactly what we've kind of been talking about in terms of the guaranteed money, 50 million guaranteed. I would imagine that offer of somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 million guaranteed and something in the neighborhood of 27 to 28 AAV isn't going to be there for much longer. And they're going to have to make a decision to cave. To me, it would be the right decision. It's the only decision for him. If, additional generational wealth matters, if a level of, concern about what he might look back on this opportunity that comes and goes, if it does, could be the biggest professional mistake of his career, aided by his agent, who is also somebody that I think Terry very much believes in. But Terry's a grown-up. Terry's smart. We know that. The team's not budging. They're not going anywhere near a DK Metcalf deal. That's not happening. And as I've said many times, to me, common sense says that a smart guy like Terry McLaurin will at some point say, I'm not going to get this opportunity more likely than not next year or the year after or the year after that. This is the last and best opportunity to put this kind of money into my pocket, guaranteed. Even if next year I have a really good season and they franchise tag me 28, 29, 30 million, that number kind of keeps going around. It'll depend. We'll know it definitively at the end of this upcoming season. You add that to what he's going to earn this year, and it's still short of the 50 million guaranteed. So there's no guarantee of a franchise tag, right? There's no guarantee of that at all. Washington could choose to play hardball next year if he doesn't have a great season and say, we're interested now in a very short-term contract extension worth, $17, $18 million a year for 2 years with 25 guaranteed. But we're not interested in paying you a 1 year, 28, 29, $30 million franchise tag. We may be interested in using it on somebody else. This could be, the last and best, as I've suggested, for much of the summer. And for me, I think that it's coming back, and he's coming back with his agent, and that a deal gets done before the end of day Labor Day. That's my belief. Will it happen? I don't know. If it doesn't happen, he's got to play on the final year of his deal. Holding out would potentially be even more disastrous. But I do think the team, as I said last week, maybe even the week before, I think the team's had it. And I think at some point that offer, whatever it is that's on the table, is going to get pulled, and that there's an expiration date on that offer. All right. That's where I think we should start. The preseason stuff, are you really alarmed by a 109 to 38 score differential in 3 games? You shouldn't be. Jaden Daniels took 4 snaps. And by the way, in those 4 snaps, they went 70-some yards and scored a touchdown with him running one in. I'm not concerned at all. I'm really not even concerned about the depth. We won't know that until real games are played against real opponents with game plans and with stakes, real stakes. So I think we should start with Terry. What did you see with Terry on Saturday? Did you see a dejected, I'm not playing for this team, I'm here? Remember, this upcoming week's going to be big. Whatever this ramp-up period that Dan Quinn's referred to, whatever this, ready-to-play period is, when they want him on that grass practicing, and maybe risking something, and he's not there, that's when it'll get really ugly. So we'll see what happens this week. But I still believe it's going to happen. Maybe naively at this point, because it's gone on much longer than I thought. But it would be really, really, I think, be a big error on Terry's part not to sign a guaranteed deal worth $50 million, if that offer is still on the table. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What did you see with sort of the shot of Terry being a bit isolated? Again, I think that can be tricky. Isolated, other than Wagner, and how do you think it does get resolved? We've got a big week upcoming, that is for sure. Kevin Sheehan, Show Team 980, phone lines open, 301-230-0980. Sam Howell traded again, traded to the Eagles from the Vikings. I said Sam Howell getting traded to the Vikings by the Seahawks in the offseason was the best thing for Sam Howell, because if Kevin O'Connell can't do it with him, then nobody can. Well, apparently Kevin O'Connell can't do it with him. But Philadelphia will take a shot with him, I would assume, as the third string quarterback behind Tanner McKee and Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I'm not going to. We've already done the, those of you that wanted Sam Howell around and just build out around him segment. Couldn't do that even if you didn't have the number 2 pick. As long as you had a top 10 to top 12 pick with the quarterbacks that were in the draft last year, you had to take a swing at one of them, because what was absolutely clear from 2023 is that Sam Howell was not a starting quarterback in the NFL. The chances he was going to be a starting quarterback heading into that season were slim. After that season, it was obvious that he was not going to be that. Anyway, there was something else. So that Sam Howell, Carson Wentz got signed in Minnesota. Tell you what, if Kevin O'Connell can't make Carson Wentz work, nobody can. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What was your reaction to the view of Terry McLaurin on the sideline? He was present at the game, which is, I think, better than not being present. He seemed to be isolated, but again, I would say that is a very tricky thing to evaluate if you watch the game on TV. I think what's obvious, and it's been obvious going back to pre-Eastern Motors, but for sure Eastern Motors press conference, he's just very hurt about this whole thing. He really believed heading into this thing that he was going to be valued at a certain level in terms of his wide receiver ranking, that the age would not play a role because of what he described in that Eastern Motors press conference, that he's a young 30, if you will, because he doesn't have as much tread on the tires as other 30-year-old receivers, and that somehow the organization would be appreciative for what he had done, in the years before Adam Peters and Dan Quinn got here, before even Josh Harris and the new ownership got here. And then, his role in helping change the culture last year. I think there's some level of understanding that Terry being a part of this locker room is a plus. And I think that's one of the reasons they're offering him a contract extension when they don't have to, and maybe even willing to offer a little bit more than they even think should be offered. That's the thing that I think, and I mentioned this like a week and a half ago, the perspective that they have is more likely not, what are you guys talking about? We don't have to do this. We are doing this because we do like him, and we do want him, and we do want to reward him, and we do want him a part of the locker room, but we don't have to do this. And in some ways, it would be better for us financially if we didn't do it. What did you read into Terry McLaurin sideline? At least he wasn't Micah Parsons laying down on the training table. That situation is hideous. Keith and Brandywine, kick it off for us. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. No, I had the binoculars on him a lot on the sideline at the game, and he wasn't happy. But most of the time he was isolated. I know he wasn't talking to the guys who were playing in the game at all, and probably the guys like Jaden Daniels. Like, I watched him. A few guys, with a little chit chat with everybody every now and again. But maybe he's upset about, not upset, but doing a lot of thinking about. I need to be out there. But bottom line is, I'm not happy with this, man. I think he's offsetting everything. I think that the timing with him and Jaden Daniels was coming there, and now it's not there, and it's not going to be there by the Giants game. The Giants aren't going to be a pushover, and because we never beat them by more than 7 points if we beat them. So I think that this is going to be a messed up thing starting the season off. And correct me, I could have sworn that when I told you weeks ago, I said his agent is advising him wrong, and then when we hung up the phone, I could have sworn you said something about, well, how can I say that this agent is professional? Maybe I could be wrong, but when I got to the radio, I could have sworn you said something about his agent, is a professional,
No,
And what do I know?
I
What do
was
I know?
I very much early on suggested, because I was told that the agent was, inexperienced in large deals like this, so that was a part of the issue. I mean, we're going back past a month. So no,
Yeah.
I think you heard that incorrectly. But thanks, Keith, for the call. Appreciate it. 301-230-0980. Keith watched him with binoculars and said it was an isolation situation for much of it. You have to think like, well, why was he isolated? Why weren't teammates, hovering over him? Why weren't they lined up to talk to him? Are they frustrated with this? I don't know. That part of it, the locker room dynamic with Terry right now, I think he's a highly respected player, always has been. Jaden wants him out there. Look, the receiver situation is not promising without him. But again, they're going to be with him. But this week is big, man. The next big, event will be when the expectation in this ramp-up schedule for Terry is for him to be on the field. And if he isn't on the field, or if he refuses to participate in what they want him to participate in, then the team's got some options in terms of treating him as a true holdout rather than a hold-in. Let's go to Skip. Skip, what was your kind of gut reaction to seeing Terry sort of isolated on the bench, minus the back and forth with Bobby Wagner?
Hey, Kevin, I think he was very unhappy about even being there. Okay, I don't think he wanted to be there. I think we could talk about Buddy Baker and his inexperience and all that, but I think this is totally driven by Terry. I think Terry sees his value totally different from the team, and at this point, it's not even about Team Terry or Team Adam Peters. It's about, okay, let's get down to the basic, who has the leverage, and of course, like you say, the team has the leverage, and this week is critical. The only leverage Terry has is they would like to start off with him, at least in camp for about 10 days. Like you said, Wednesday is a key day if he could be there. But certainly I agree with you by next week. And if he doesn't show, then his value to what they want goes down. So his leverage really ends this week. So
he doesn't have any leverage.
He has a decision to make.
He doesn't have any leverage.
Right. Well, he does. He has the leverage of, you guys really would like me to be there, and if we can work this out, it would be great. We could get a good start. Okay, it's already almost, if he was there on Wednesday, that would be great. I'm not saying it's a lot of leverage, Kevin, but it's.
By the way, the Wednesday I think I've been talking about is the first, what they call install day, first legitimate practice next Wednesday before the Giant game. This week isn't the Giant game, right? It's yeah.
Oh,
now,
right.
what's big this week is whatever the plan is practice-wise, whatever the plan is for him, as Quinn's talked about the ramp-up period, or the return to play period for him. Whenever that return to play period hits, today is the day that Terry needs to be on the field. He needs to be on grass, as Cliff Kingsbury's called it. He better be on grass, or then you wonder what the team's reaction will be. Because at that point, he is no longer a hold-in. He's legitimately a holdout.
So I totally agree with you about that. So I think the last thing he's going to do is play on the current deal. I think he's going to either take that $50 million, okay? Because
if that's what it is. If that's what it is. Yeah.
Right. I think you're right about that. Now, can they give him incentives? Like, can they say, okay, he can say, I'll accept the deal that you're offering, but can you give me incentives that if I meet certain numbers,
sure,
that okay, well, that's the deal then. That's the deal that he should go for. Because I do think, I looked at the numbers. You mentioned Marvin Harrison, and I'm not comparing Terry to Marvin Harrison, but Marvin Harrison started his career at the age of 24, just like Terry. In fact, they're almost, he was born in August. Marvin Harrison's numbers, because he didn't have Peyton Manning his first 3 years, they didn't go up until Peyton Manning came. And so he had 3 great years when Peyton Manning's first 3 years. Then he had another 3 great years. So he was 9 years into his career, still having great numbers. Terry can be
Hall of
compared.
Famer we're talking about, remember.
Well, no, I'm not saying Terry's a Hall of Famer, but I'm saying his longevity and his body type, the fact that you know in life people there's young 30s or young 40s. You know, people are they.
I think
the
Terry's
lack of
got a
wear and
couple
tear-
good years left in him for sure.
Well, no, he could be in the middle of his career. He could have a 12-year career, and this could be the middle of his peak years. So he could have another 3 really good years, just like Marvin Harrison.
Right.
And you can look it up. Okay.
Yeah, that's not what the analytics say on the position.
Well, you got to do deep dive analytics, Kevin. You can't just say 30 is a magic number. You got to look at the
30 is not the magic number. Actually, 31 is post 31, and the team is clearly relying on some of those analytics. And I'm sure they know what Marvin Harrison did, during his career, and what Jerry Rice did during his career. Post 31.
There are others that have done the same who had peak years. They've had peak years after 30. They've had like 3 peak years after 30. There are a lot of examples of that. I think the Junkies did a whole series on that where they named some of the players. And I think Terry falls within that in terms of body type, speed. He has certain elite traits. He has elite speed. He also contested catches. He was number 1.
Yep.
Okay, so
and part of that is because he's not very good at getting separation. You understand that, right?
I do understand that.
He's very low on separation.
Right, he doesn't have the wiggle that some of these really elite receivers have. But
because he's not an elite receiver.
No, that's what I'm saying. He does not have that, but he's the next best thing.
Okay.
And for us, we really need him in order to make a Super Bowl run.
Thanks. Appreciate it, as always, Skip. 301-230-0980. Bob, Mark, Phil, everybody on hold. Stay there. We've got a line open as well, 301-230-0980. What did you make of Terry being somewhat isolated on the bench, or maybe very isolated, minus the back and forth there with Bobby Wagner? Had a caller call in, say he was at the game, had binoculars on Terry the whole time, and that's kind of what it was during much of the game. What do you think's going through his mind right now? My belief is he's going to get to the point where he's pissed, he's hurt, he's angry, he's all of those things, but he's a grown-up, and he understands that this deal is the best offer he will ever have a chance to sign for the rest of his career, and he'll sign it. That's my guess. I hope it works out that way, too. 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, happy Monday, everybody. It is August 25th. Tommy Fleetwood wins his first event in the PGA after 164 career starts. No better time than to do it during the championship. He wins, finishing 2 under on the day, 18 under through 72 holes of action. And Cal Raleigh sets the new home run record for catchers, hitting his 48th and 49th home runs yesterday against the Athletics to MVP chance. Said he didn't even hear him. Plus the Nats, they lose their weekend series to the Phillies. A tough day for Jake Irvin as he only makes it through 2 1/3 innings, giving up 6 hits and all 3 runs scored in the game. Lights out performance for Ranger Suarez, giving up only 3 hits, 2 of which came from Jacob Young through 7 innings. The Nats fall by a score of 3-2. The Nats will make their trip up to the Big Apple to take on the New York Yankees tonight. Brad Lord on the mound versus Cam Schlittler. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
From George, you keep saying he has to play. Of course he doesn't have to play. Do you remember Emmitt Smith? Yeah, the Emmitt Smith comparison's been drawn about 100 times during the last 3 weeks, George. Again, they were coming off a Super Bowl, and Emmitt Smith was on his way to becoming a Hall of Fame player. Big difference. But, the idea that in 4 days, basically, Sunday to Thursday night, that they could look horrible on offense and somehow Terry could actually extract the first amount of leverage in the negotiation out of the team's regular season performance. This is something we've talked about during the summer, that I never thought that there was any way for him to gain leverage from preseason games or even from a joint practice or any other practices. They got to see it in an actual game where the players are playing for the entirety of the game, where Jaden Daniels and that offense completely comes to a screeching halt without 17 in the game. At that point, maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe that's their last. That is a true Hail Mary. Like, they're not going to be what they were last year without me. They're going to realize it after 2 weeks, and I'm going to get $33 million a year and $70 million guaranteed. Maybe. I would not bet on that, though. And I think if they're betting on that, two things are in play here. One, it's a big risk to think that without Terry McLaurin, the offense is just going to come to a screeching halt. I don't think that's true. I think as long as number 5's out there, I think they will have success. Again, I think they're better with Terry. I think they've got a chance to win more games and be a better offense with Terry and go deeper into the postseason with him rather than without him. But I don't think this becomes like a bottom third of the league offense without him in it. I think 5's the most important player. And so far, he's healthy and will be available for the regular season. And then the other part of that is somehow thinking that if things really looked horrible without him, that would get the team to budge. I don't know. We've heard about Adam Peters, incredibly stubborn. And I thought that last week, Joel Corey made the most interesting point with us, and that was, sometimes the worst, position to be in as a player is the first major deal negotiated by a new regime, because they're trying to basically create what we're going to be as negotiators. We're not getting fleeced. We're not overpaying. This isn't the place to come and get 20% above retail, and unfortunately, Terry's that first in line. If they had a history of being solid negotiators, but fair negotiators, not overpaying, but not underpaying, then maybe they could have had more leeway in this negotiation. Let's go to Bob in Tennessee. Bob, thanks for holding. What was your reaction to seeing Terry somewhat isolated on the sideline in the final preseason game against Baltimore?
Hey, Kevin, good morning. And a special shout out to your producer, Max. He's awesome.
Max is great.
I talked to him for a few minutes before I even got on the air. Hey, look, I maybe this might not be the best analogy, but I look at what Terry's doing a little bit like, do you remember that play? You're old enough to remember that play, the no, Danny, no, go for it on 4th down and lose it.
December 1983,
well,
I certainly do.
I think that Danny White was planning on pretending to hike the ball. He was going to do everything he could to get us to jump offside. Once he began to think, oh, wait a minute, I think I can make this play, or I think my running back can make this play, that's when Tom Landry, by the way, that's my last name too, by the way, on the sideline had realized he is making the most fatal mistake of their entire season. And he yelled at him, no, he went anyway. Terry McLaurin, if he was, not that he's not smart, I'll preface that, but if his agent and him got together and said, we're going to push Adam Peters to the wall right at the last second, get as much as we possibly can, and then sign it, and then get the work that needs to be done. That wouldn't be a problem for me whatsoever. In fact, that's what we do almost every game to get teams to jump off sides. You don't, in certain situations, you can't go for it when all the stakes, your entire future rides on that one play. he may
Yeah.
not get that chance ever again.
It's a good call,
I mean,
Bob.
Terry.
The analogy is a bit of a reach, but I get what you're saying, and I would add this to it. I think I think for like all of us have some years of experience personally, professionally, and otherwise to sort of draw on in these situations, not as professional athletes, but in conversations with employers about compensation, et cetera. Nothing's ever broken completely, especially if you're a valuable person. Terry's valuable, okay? He may feel now like, oh my God, I can't fix this, and now I got to really dig my heels in, and I gotta, hit this Hail Mary on maybe they'll end up giving it to me if the team stinks in the first 2 games if I hold out or whatever it is. But no, things can always be repaired. Things are never as bleak as they appear, or more times than not, they're not. And in this particular situation, this is projecting majorly, I understand, but I could see a 30-year-old, he's still a young person going through this first major contract negotiation, disappointment, frustration, angst, all of it, but at the end of the day, they really like you. You really liked playing for them. You can make a mistake or 2 or 3 along the way, and it can be forgiven. And by the way, they can make a mistake or 2 along the way, and you can forgive them. Now, if they're so far apart, I still think Terry, no matter how far apart they are, I just don't see why anybody advising him would say, don't worry about it. You'll have the same chance or even a better chance next year. That's just not logical at this point.
No, it isn't.
And so I do think, sometimes young people, they get so distraught. Man, sometimes the next day is just a much better day. You just got to keep showing up. You got to keep swinging. You got to hang in there. And you can't be, the emotional side of business is tough, but it's easy to say, don't let emotions get involved in business. It's just business. That's hard for young people. Hard.
It's hard for old people, too.
Yeah, and for old people, too. But in his first go-round with this, I think there have been some mistakes made by his agent and him, but they're not insurmountable. They're not unfixable. Of course they can be fixed. Thanks, Bob, for the call.
Exactly.
Appreciate that. Mark, Billy, Dave, everybody stay on hold. We'll do this for another quick segment after the break. What did you make of Terry's sort of isolation on the sideline for the preseason finale against Baltimore? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. This from Mark. Mark writes, and I just pulled it up. Was looking in between the break. He just wrote, Kevin, I don't always agree with you, Kirk Cousins, in parentheses. But you just said it. I have 30 people who report to me in my company, and compensation conversations are always the hardest. People do and say things that they will end up regretting, and sometimes they regret them right off the bat. But if they are valuable to the company, as you said, everything is fixable. Yes, everything is fixable. Terry hasn't gone beyond a point of no repair. I don't believe that. You know, his agent hasn't gone beyond a point of no repair. The team, I don't think, has gone beyond a point where, you know, they're so dug in and this can get worked out. And when it does get worked out, you know, they can talk about, hey, you know, a lot of lessons learned during this process, but so glad to get it done. And I'm going to go out and perform, or the team's going to say, we're so confident and we wanted him here all along. It doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't have to lead to like a really harsh and very final decision. You know, it doesn't. And sometimes that's hard when you're in the midst of it to realize that. That's where, you know, an agent needs to say, hey, you know what? We did our best, but this is the best. And you're not going to have this opportunity next year or the year after. So let's do it and let's move on and let's become the best version of Terry McLaurin that we can become. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. The question is, what did you think seeing Terry McLaurin on the sideline during the game on Saturday? Isolated. Again, sometimes you're only picking up on one shot or, you know, one moment, but we had a caller, the very first caller, call in and say he had binoculars on Terry the entire game and that it was very much sort of an isolated situation. What did you think? What do you think he's thinking? Let's go to Anthony in D.C. Anthony, go ahead.
So, Kevin, let me run a non-apples to apples comparison scenario by you.
Okay.
So, Kevin Sheehan has his podcast, and Kevin Sheehan is gaining traction, and over the course of years, he's doing well over on his own. He's making millions of dollars. So, a podcasting platform takes notice. They want to buy Kevin's podcast. So you come to find out you're worth $400 million. They won't go above $200 million.
I love where you're going with this, Anthony. I love the hypothetical numbers you're using. So go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, Joe Rogan got $200 million. So I'm saying it's not out of the.
I don't think my podcast or my radio show is Joe Rogan. But go ahead.
Well, so they won't go above $200 million. What are you doing?
If those are the real numbers and somebody's offering me $200 million for my podcast, this is so horrible. Let me just tell you, Anthony, in all seriousness, I have had an offer to buy my podcast. I've had a couple of interesting conversations, but it's too long to get into the explanation. But look, if I believe very strongly that I'm worth X and somebody's offering me X minus, I'm going to negotiate it really hard and see where it lands. And then I'll deal with whatever that delta is and what, you know, whether or not it makes sense for me to not do the deal or do the deal.
In that scenario, the delta doesn't move. Keep in mind, you're already making millions on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. The numbers you used are bad, but I'll go with like, you know, a reasonable difference in which I would in that particular case, keep in mind, I'm not an employee in my podcast, in the podcast scenario. So there's a certain level of control that I have. I have all the leverage in that. It's just, it's not a good apples to apples that you're using. What do you want me to say? If I were in Terry's shoes, if I were advising Terry, based on what I know and what we can all observe from the outside looking in, even though Terry's not getting anywhere near what Terry believes he's worth, I think right now I would tell him to take the offer if the offer is for 27 to 28 million AAV with 50 million guaranteed. I think it would be irresponsible for me to tell him not to take it because I don't think it'll be there ever again.
I said it wasn't apples to apples.
Yeah, I know.
I said it wasn't. So sometimes in life, people take a certain stance on certain things based just on principle. And Terry may be one of those people. I don't know. But what I'm getting at is if he is stuck in his belief that this is what he's worth, he may be willing to sit out. You never know. I mean, the MLB Players Association wouldn't be where they are without Curt Flood. Jim Brown left the Cleveland Browns over.
I'm glad you said these aren't apples to apples.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, principle is the guiding factor. Jim Brown left money on the table because Art
Do you think that's what it is with Terry? Do you think
him.
principle's driving this? Like he's trying to make a point? What point is he making?
No, his personal principle. He's standing on. He could potentially be standing on his personal belief that this is what I'm worth, and I'm not paying for anything less.
Well, I'd tell him the principle is about to cost him probably $20 to $30 million. So if that's worth it, go for it.
But the difference is he's not broke.
No, he's not. That's a good point, Anthony. That's a good point.
He's not broke.
He signed a pretty good deal. But you know what? You know what? $20 to $30 million is still real money to him.
Yeah, of course it is.
Thanks, Anthony. As always, man. Mark, Largo. Mark, go ahead.
Kevin, I think it's time for Josh Harris to get involved.
I don't.
And I'm going to tell you why I say this.
God, I hope that doesn't happen.
Just hear me out, Kevin. Hear me out. I think at this point, Adam Peters has pissed off a lot of people, and it's not just Terry and Buddy Baker. You know, all y'all sit up here and run your mouths.
Who else is he pissed off?
Cliff Kingsbury. And let me finish, Kevin. Everybody sat up here and ran their mouth about Cliff Kingsbury and what he said 10 days ago at his press conference, that he was directly talking about Terry. I think he was talking about Terry and Adam. And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Luke McCaffrey.
I don't, by the way. I disagree with you, but continue.
Luke McCaffrey on any other team would be cut right now, and it wouldn't be a conversation about it. I love Luke McCaffrey, but he is a third-round failure. If we're sitting around here talking about
what do you love about him, then?
Is
if he's such a failure, why'd you preface it with "I love him"?
Kevin, and you know it. Yeah, I love him too. But he can't get away from
No,
anybody.
I'm asking you, why do you say he's a complete failure, but you say, I really love Luke McCaffrey? Seems like that's conflicting statements.
When you're
do you know him?
Second year, Kevin. No, hear me out, Kevin. Hear me out. How has this camp been going? Why is Cliff Kingsbury upset? Why did Luke play on Saturday and Jalen Lane didn't?
What are we doing? What are we doing here? You do this all the time. Let's get back to Terry. Let's get back to Terry. So who else has Adam Peters pissed off?
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm talking about this. Okay.
See, you think he thinks Luke McCaffrey's the answer?
No. All right. Let me finish, Kevin. Let me finish.
You just always kind of meander in so many different directions.
Kevin, are you going to let me talk?
Maybe. Kevin? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I want you to answer first. Right. Who has Adam Peters pissed off other than Terry and Buddy Baker?
The coaching staff.
Okay. I disagree with you. Now you can continue.
It was evidently clear the first day of the press conference that Dan was sitting there pissed off and Adam was sitting there subdued. I think Cliff was sitting up here talking about the receiving core being as bad as it is, leading with Luke McCaffrey. Your third-round pick that you like. I think if it was up to Dan and Cliff, Luke wouldn't be on this team.
Pick that I liked?
Now, this is why I say this ties in with Terry, okay? It ties in with Terry like this. If you're so stringent and so particular about Terry's deal and the money you're giving him, the future of our team is really on Luke McCaffrey and a third-round pick, which was your first third-round receiver pick for Jaden. And that's blowing up in your face. That's why I said Josh needs to get involved.
I look, it's not a bad take.
Kevin.
It's not a bad take. I just don't think you're right. I think what I heard from Cliff Kingsbury is it's time to get real about the offer that's been made. It's incredibly generous.
Kevin,
we didn't have to make it.
That.
You got to get out on the field.
Agree.
I want you. I need you. Let's do it. Let's get this thing together.
Kevin, look at that. Look at that backups. I mean, look. Let me ask you this, man. If Luke McCaffrey makes the team and Ja'Cory Brooks is cut on Tuesday but brought back on the practice squad, or Tay Martin is cut, I mean, these are guys that have performed better in training camp.
In preseason games. Right.
Luke had 5 catches, and he still couldn't get away from anybody. And I love Luke. But you got to call a spade a spade.
This is the part of the call that is the most entertaining. He stinks, but you love him. What do you love about him?
I didn't say he stinks.
If he's terrible.
I didn't say he stinks.
Oh.
I didn't say he stinks.
Can't get away from anybody.
That.
Would be cut by any other team in the league. What do you love about him?
You know this.
What do you love about him?
He has a great attitude about the game.
Oh, okay. Let's keep the guys that have great attitudes. He's got great penmanship, too.
You know what else, Kevin? You know what else? Hold up. Maybe, you know what? You want my honest opinion? If he beats up about 25 to 30 pounds, I think he'd be a better tight end.
Then you'll really love him.
You want my honest opinion? I honestly think if he beats up about 25 to 30 pounds, I think he'd be a better tight end.
301-230-0980. If Luke McCaffrey beefs up 20 to 25 pounds, would he be a better tight end than a wide receiver prospect? Mark is going to take calls on his show coming up in the next hour. You're the best. You're the absolute best. Thanks, Mark. Let's go to Billy in Chantilly. Billy, what did you see on that sideline? Terry sort of isolated against Baltimore the other day.
I look like a miserable guy. I would just, Kevin, to start the call, I'd like to just acknowledge to the fans out there that without question, we now have the worst owner in the history of the league at the Dallas Cowboys. I watched the Cowboys Netflix this weekend.
But isn't so? I've heard it's really good. Is it?
It's fantastic. I love it. This is just to watch him suffer. Just the worst decision in the history of sports to fire Jimmy Johnson. That was it's good.
Hold on, real quickly, Billy. This from G from the shop. G from the shop sent me a DM the other day. He goes, "I hate the Cowboys, but this Dallas Cowboys, America's team on Netflix is effing awesome. Don't deprive yourself because you hate them." And then he signs off HTTR. I've heard everybody that's watched this thing says it is really well done. And that there's a lot of Redskins stuff in it from back in the early days of Jerry and Jimmy.
Some good Redskins stuff, a lot of bad stuff too.
Okay.
We were at the end of the great era, as you know.
Right.
And we started the great error, as you know. ERROR.
I know how to spell it. Are you talking about the North
Dan
experiment?
Schneider.
Oh, Snyder.
Dan Schneider.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great error.
Yeah.
Look,
okay,
I don't know how. Shout out to Kirk Cousins because he's the greatest negotiator in the history of NFL. If we can't find a contract for Terry McLaurin, but somehow Kirk Cousins has made $1 billion in the NFL, the guy can't win a playoff game. And somehow we got Terry sitting on the sidelines for 2 months. Football is a very emotional game. And it's like, oh, it's business. You got to separate the emotion. But the best part of Terry McLaurin is his emotionality, his dedication, his commitment to the Commanders that he's shown when the teams were terrible. And that part of him is working against him in the negotiation.
Maybe. But I think they're so far apart, Billy, that hasn't really had an opportunity to come in and defect it. Because I felt the same way what you just said. I was like, Terry's, professionalism may actually, hurt him in these negotiations because they believe whether they get a deal with him or not, he'll show up, he'll be a pro, and he'll play great this year on the final year of his deal. But I don't know.
Terry yelled, "Show me the money" to Buddy Baker. Has he yelled, "Show me the money" to Buddy Baker? Do we know that or not?
I don't know if Jerry Maguire is getting a show me the money from Rod Tidwell yet or not. Is that was that the player's name?
This is the worst lose-lose negotiation in the history of football team.
Well,
There's no question.
How would you? How would you? Tell me.
This
forget
5 years
Terry.
from
What would you recommend the team do to not be on on their side of the lose-lose?
What I would do is I would try to figure out a way to get him a 1-year deal that gets him enough money this year to come in here and play. That's what I would do.
How do you know he's not going to come in and play?
What's that?
Why would you think that he's not going to come in and play?
The stalemate it's just a bad feeling.
Okay.
It's just an overall bad feeling. And it is emotional. And the Commanders are emotional to me. I don't sit around and look at this spreadsheet and go, oh, they're good this week, they're bad this week, they're going to run for 100 yards. I love the emotionality of football. And I like to see Terry out there on football team. We got
Billy, you know who the quarterback is?
Greatest in history.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't wait to see this guy this year. It's going to be unbelievable. The league is going to go insane. They're going to hate him. We're going to love him.
All right, see ya. I got to go. If you're on hold, we'll take some of these calls. You guys have lined up and you've been waiting, so stay there. One last segment, that's it, on what do you think about Terry's isolation look on the sideline during the Baltimore game? What'd you think of it, and what do you think he's thinking? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We are free and live on the Odyssey app.
With regards to Luke McCaffrey, it seemed like it was an emphasis to get him the ball. Looking at his entire journey this year from OTAs to now, where have you kind of seen him grow the most, or where do you think he still needs to maybe take that next step?
Yeah. One, we've pushed him in 2 spots, which he's definitely capable of handling, both playing outside and inside. The things that I've seen improve for him, is the route, and the precision doing that, the footwork that goes with that. He's always been one hell of a competitor. He's got punt return background, kick return background for us. So we like all the things that Luke brings, but it's really the competitor that, kind of sets it apart, Ben, in that way. But I do like the versatility that he does outside to inside. I thought it won't maybe show up all the way on the stat sheet, but like he's made an impact on the team side. Last week, I thought for him covering kicks, man, I felt it.
Dan Quinn not discussing Luke McCaffrey as a potential candidate to switch to tight end with an extra 15, 20, 25 pounds. Mark and Largo thinks that would be the move. We'll see if Luke McCaffrey makes the team. He was their 3rd round pick last year, late 3rd round, number 100 overall in the draft in 2024. Look, in all seriousness, I mean, I have been saying all summer that if the deal doesn't get done with Terry McLaurin, it matters, but he's going to have to be out there anyway. It would be insane for him not to be out there entering his age 30 season. No person in their right mind could say to him, yeah, the chances of you getting what you want if you hold out are pretty good. Or if you end up holding out the season, Le'Veon Bell style, and get fined millions and millions of dollars and not get paid what you're supposed to get paid this year, the 16, 17 million and what's left on the deal. We'll get it back next year. No big deal. We'll make up for it with the next big contract. It's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. But am I excited about the possibility of putting a rookie out there in a primary position? With Jaden Daniels, potentially having, a Luke McCaffrey and a Noah Brown not completely healthy. Yeah, it's not a great spot right now. I recognize that. I do. I think Debo's primed for a big year, but I think the year would be bigger with Terry in the lineup. I think Terry's going to be in the lineup. This idea that, that Mark threw out, that Adams pissing the coaching staff off, that they work very closely with one another, but Adams' responsibilities aren't to coach the players. His responsibility is to put together a first-rate roster responsibly. That's his responsibility. And by the way, over a long period of time, not just for 1 year, even though we recognize this to be a window. I think that organizationally, from my standpoint, I think they're all, kind of on the same page. Obviously, if you were the coach or the coordinator, you hope that Terry and the team, Terry and Terry's agent and Adam Peters get it together and they figure something out. But you cannot, set a precedent by overpaying this guy by a lot. I've heard some of you, suggest just get it done. We're talking about a couple of $1 million. We're not talking about a couple of $1 million. The difference between 33 and 27.5, which is the spot rack fair market value, is $5.5 million times, call it 3 years. We're talking about $16.5 million. And the guaranteed money that they want is probably about a $20 million difference. So this isn't, a couple of $1 million, just get it done. If it was just a couple of $1 million, get it done, it would be done. All right. What did you think watching Terry on Saturday in the Baltimore game kind of hang out on the sideline by himself? Bobby Wagner was over there talking to him. Again, I'm not suggesting that was it for the entirety. When you're watching it on television, it can be very misleading, but we did have a caller early on say that he had binoculars on it, and it was pretty much what it looked like on TV. that Terry was somewhat isolated. What was your take? What do you think he's thinking? Montana in D.C. Montana, go ahead.
Thank you so much for taking my phone call, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a great summer so far.
You too.
Yeah, Kevin, I always want to say this to you, Kevin. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm half kidding when I say this. I think you're losing your fastball a little bit, man. So please don't talk about Al Michaels anymore losing his fastball, man, because you're losing his fastball. You're losing your fastball, too. So I think the whole Adam Peters standstill is he's being stubborn because he realizes that, according to him, not me, because I would love Terry McLaurin on the team. I would give Terry McLaurin what he wants, 70 guarantees what I would give him. But Adam Peters realizes to him, again, this is how Adam Peters, I believe, is thinking. He's thinking that he believes Deebo Samuels can do everything that Terry can do and more. I'm surprised you haven't, thought that.
We have mentioned it. I mean, during some of those, hanging breaking balls, we've mentioned and talked about how it's very possible that Cliff thinks, look, with him or without him, we're going to be good on offense. I got Deebo. Deebo's going to be an unbelievable weapon. I love this kid, Jalen Lane. We've got a backfield that looks better. It's Jaden in year 2. I'm with you on that. I think there is some belief.
I think it's Adam. I think it's Adam Peters, though.
I think organizationally they believe that. I think they know they'd be better with him, but I don't think they feel like they're going to suffer terribly without him.
Exactly. So I think, to your question, because I'm coachable, Terry McLaurin's basically thinking that Adam Peters' loyalty is with Deebo and not him. And I think that's the frustration that I believe Terry has. Because
okay. That hasn't been mentioned. You're right.
What are they going to do next year, Kevin? Are they going to change the team name to the Bengals? And what I'm referring to is, are they going to be stupid enough to pay 2 wide receivers? Big time market money like they did in Cincinnati. Are they going to do that? So what are they going to do next year? Because
Terry's under contract this year, and they have the control over Terry next year with the franchise tag.
Right, but again, Debo's up next year, right?
That's true.
I mean, this is last year, right?
Maybe they'll extend Deebo to a short-term deal at his age.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I think like I was mentioning, I think Adam Peters believes that he has this, strict stance right now because he can carry the way. If Terry leaves, he's cool with that. If Terry's there, he's there. And that's the stance. Because if Deebo wasn't there, they would give Terry what he wanted. Obviously, because Deebo was there, they're playing this hardball. That's disappointing. So
I think organizationally, thanks for the call, Montana. I think organizationally, there is a belief that if for whatever reason, if Terry didn't play or if Terry wasn't Terry because he was really frustrated, hurt by the whole thing, that they're still going to be a very good offensive football team. Oh,
sorry to interrupt, Kevin. We got some breaking news. I'm reading the tweet from Diana Rossini right now. The Commanders and Terry McLaurin have agreed to a 3-year extension worth over $96 million per sources from the Athletics. Diana Rossini.
All right, so we got to see the details of this deal, but 3 years, $96 million. I can do the math on that. That would be $32 million per year. Need to see the guaranteed, see how it is structured. But this could be a wonderful day for all Washington fans. Diana Rossini reporting Washington has reached a 3-year extension worth over $96 million with Terry McLaurin. Good for everybody. The 32 wouldn't be exactly DK Metcalf, but it would be just barely less than that. The team, if at $32 million, we got to see the details of this deal, obviously. At $32 million a year, the team came up. Terry came down a little bit. The team came up potentially a lot. All right, at $32 million. Got to see the details, always, of these sorts of deals. But guess what, boys and girls? Terry signed a contract extension, or they have agreed to a 3-year contract extension. And this is the best thing for everybody involved. Diana Rossini reporting it. We'll see how this reporting shakes out over the next hour and a half. There we go. Sources will get Ben on hopefully sooner rather than later to see if he is confirming it as well. And I'm going
Schefter's got it too. It's everywhere. So it's going up right now.
Who had it first? Do we know?
So Schefter is the timestamp before Rossini. So it's everyone's very close. I believe maybe Jordan Schultz was probably the first one. Is according to
Diana's got
chat.
the money involved in her tweet. Adam Schefter does not. Adam's got Washington and Terry reached agreement today on a 3-year contract extension that will end his holdout and get him in uniform for the regular season opener versus the Giants, per sources. Okay. Let's continue to look around here.
Jordan Schultz, 5 minutes ago, 11:32 a.m. with the all-pro wide receiver, agreed to 3-year extension worth over $96 million. Multiple sources tell me deal is done.
Who do you have that with?
Jordan Schultz.
He's the one. Is he the one that's gotten a lot of stuff right?
Yeah, he's the son of Starbucks founder or whatever, Howard Schultz.
Oh, right, Howard Schultz.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he's been getting a lot of he's been first on a lot of information with Terry McLaurin over these past couple months and weeks and stuff like that. So we're back. We did it. Adam Peters has done it again.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see the details of the deal. But look, part of this, too, is deadlines make deals. And I am really, really glad this is going to end.
We're done, Kevin.
Really glad this is going to end.
We don't have to talk about it anymore.
It gave us a lot of material, but, man, I am glad this is going to end because they're going to be a really good team on offense this year. A really good team on offense. Let's keep the phone lines open now, right? 301-230-0980. The question now moves from Terry's got a deal, reaction. Everybody's reporting it on social media. Adam Schefter has it. Schefter, let's see if Schefter gets an update. Schefter now reporting 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million per his agents, Buddy Baker and Tony Bonagura. So we'll see the structure of the deal, but who cares at this point, right? Terry McLaurin in the fold, 3-year extension. He is extended. He will be playing on an extended contract. I'm very glad this got worked out. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. If you're on hold for the other question, you can stay on hold, and we'll get your reaction to this. We'll take a break. I'm going to try to see what Ben's schedule is and a couple of other people as well, and we'll come back and take calls or have a guest. So line it up on the phones. Reaction, Terry gets a 3-year contract extension according to Adam Schefter. Let's go with Adam because he's usually got it pretty spot on. A deal worth up to $96 million. That would be up to $32 million per year. All right. Phones are open. 301-230-0980. All of our conversation about this team during this time of the summer training camp is brought to you nationally by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico.
All right, baby. The breaking news is upon us. The wait is over. Terry McLaurin has signed a 3-year extension worth up to $96 million to remain in Washington. We've finally done it. The nightmare is over. Terry McLaurin gassed up, ready to go for week 1. And Tommy Fleetwood won his first ever PGA event after 164 career starts. No better time to do it than the championship. He finishes 2 under on the day and 18 under through 72 holes of action. And Cal Raleigh sets a new home run record for catchers, hitting his 48th and 49th home runs yesterday against the Athletics. The Nats, they lose their weekend series to the Philadelphia Phillies. Tough day for Jake Irvin as he only makes it through 2 1/3 innings to give up 6 hits and all 3 runs. A lights out performance from Ranger Suarez, giving up only 3 hits, 2 from Jacob Young through 7 innings. And the Nats fall by a score of 3-2. They will make the trip up to the Big Apple to take on the New York Yankees tonight. Brad Lord on the mound versus Cam Schlittler. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. 35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1, and you can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Do you still feel really good that you're going to get your guy?
Oh, 100%. I feel great.
Everyone feels optimistic that Terry's coming back. I saw him out on the field. Why do you feel so good about it?
I just know that it's all going to work out, that both sides are going to come to an agreement, and Terry's going to be back out here. We're going to be throwing some passes to him.
That was Jaden Daniels with Diana Rossini, I think, the other day, last week when she was in town. Yes, so keep in mind, this is a 3-year extension on top of this final year. So essentially what he is now 4 years for $120 million. The next 4 years of the deal for 120. So more like 30 a year on average over the next 4 years. The extension itself worth $32 million per year, or up to $32 million a year. If you're just joining us, the news is broken in the last 12 minutes. Adam Schefter, and I was just texting with Adam during the break. He's doing a podcast right now, so he can't jump on. Maybe before the end of the show, we'll see. Ben's going to jump on with us at noon. So they're all, hustling to find out as much as they can about this deal. Important to know, Kevin, 124 years, some incentives in the deal. We'll see what it looks like.
From the desk of JP Finley, a $30 million signing bonus for Terry per Tom Pelissero. So
yeah, the guaranteed number. Now that's signing bonus. The guaranteed number will be the important number here.
Mm-hmm.
30 million signing bonus is not necessarily the guaranteed money in the deal. So we'll see what that looks like. All right. Ben at 12 will keep you posted with all of the breaking news. Yeah, Pelissar, Terry McLaurin's extension includes a $30 million signing bonus per source. A significant raise who with upside can earn over $96 million in new money. Okay. There we go. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Ryland's been on hold for a while. Ryland, go ahead.
Well, Kev, wow. Well, this has been a great Monday.
This is really, really excellent news. I mean, the idea that he was going to come in here and play as a very hurt and emotionally distraught player was something we were going to have to really consider this time next week if the deal hadn't been done and the team had essentially said, yeah, that was it. That was your opportunity. But I always felt like the common sense was a deal would eventually get done, and we talked about it at the very beginning of the show. But I think I hope that this is a deal that Terry is happy with. And more importantly, even if they're not thrilled with it, I hope it's a deal that makes it look good for him.
I completely agree there. I think everybody has to be happy with this kind of a number, although it seems a little bit high for a 30-year-old. I think at the same time, having a happy kind of team first, culture driven Terry in the building now makes it worth that. And I'm like you said, I'm happy for AP and the team as well. I'm almost at a loss for words. I'm so excited. I think it's a great day for the team. I think it's a great day for Jaden Daniels. I think it's a great day for all these fans, and just a happy day for everybody in DC. And before I hop off here, Kev, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you damn sure still have that Randy Johnson crispy fastball, buddy. There's nothing better than a morning listen to you, buddy.
I like the expectation bar to be really low.
Well, you set it high for everybody, buddy. You knock that bar off every time, so you're the man. I appreciate it, boss.
Ryland.
Go, hey?
You're
See
sweet.
the Super Bowl, Kev.
See you. Let's go to Mike in Virginia. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Thanks for taking my call. Hey,
sure, Mike.
I mean, I was not prepared. I thought he was going to be – I was going to say, man, he seemed awful disgruntled, and it's hard to have a guy come in disgruntled and perform, the way you want. But I guess I was wrong. Sounds like they got a deal done. Sounds like it's probably some incentives in there. And, hey, look, man, the league had 24 receivers last year that had 1,000 yards. I mean, I get he's – like a lot of people think he's a middle-of-the-road guy, but –
well, not middle of the road, but just not, elite, somewhere between 10 and 14, somewhere in there.
But you just don't find those guys. I mean, everybody, most people that didn't want to sign them, it's like, hey, we can just replace them. And I get it. You got an elite QB. They can uplift everybody. But, yeah. And then just off, not about Terry, but with Luke McCaffrey, everybody hates that guy. That guy plays special teams, man, and that says a lot about him too. So I hope they keep him around because, a lot of guys aren't willing to do that. I get it, you're a third-round guy, you don't want to just stick him as a special teamer, but I never understood the hate on that guy. But I don't know. But that, yeah.
Who did you say? I'm sorry. Who did you just say? You don't understand the hate on who?
McCaffrey.
Oh, he's been here. He's been here a year. I mean, it's just like we've said many times about drafts. You got to give it time. We'll see. If they think there's nothing there, I don't think they'd hesitate, honestly, in getting rid of him. If they thought there was absolutely nothing there and that they made a mistake. We're not talking about a first rounder or a second rounder. We're talking at the very end of the third round. It happens in the NFL. Usually they get a little bit more benefit of the doubt than day 3 guys. But, yeah.
He's a special teamer, so I think that there's value in that.
Right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go. Let's go to Paulie. I want to get Paulie on here and see what he thinks. Paulie, go.
Hell to the W, man. Big guy, what's up?
Big time today. That's big.
It's a good day, man. And you wanted him to settle for 27. This
Well-
is my thing, bro. Why take off summer to get to this number, man?
What'd you say?
Honestly. I said, why did it have to take all summer to get to this number? You know, because before
Well, we'll see what the deal looks like. We'll see what the deal looks like. It's up to 96 million and 30 million in a bonus. We'll see what the guarantees are. The guaranteed money is going to be a big part of this. Let's see what he got guaranteed money.
That doesn't matter.
Well, it matters everything.
You know what? It does. You're right. It does matter because we're all thinking on the concept of the annual average. We don't really know what the actual. That's what I really want to know. What was the actual hang-up? Was it the annual average or was it the guaranteed money? You know what I mean?
It could have been the years too. It could have been the years also.
Right. But what I was going to say, or to the original question was, I was going to say that he might have been taking his last look at that stadium and thinking like, man, this don't get done. I'm going to have to go. That's what I was going to say. I mean, honestly, man, he might have been just, in emotion, like, man, you know what? I mean, because from day one, I took Terry seriously, especially when it came with the trade request and all that. You get to a certain point in your life, this is his last big deal. Like, and if I always said, if he wasn't going to get it here, he was going to get it somewhere else. And at this point, I thought he felt the disrespect was so bad that he might have took a lesser deal somewhere else. But that's all under water under the bridge now. We got our guy on the fold. Let's start this season, baby. Let's start. I'm ready. I got a B4. I got a B4 shot of Terry. Let's go. Hell to the W, man.
You got a B4 shot or a B12 shot?
B12, B4, whatever it is. I just asked you what it was. You didn't answer me. B12. Let's go, man. I'm ready to roll, man. Hell to the W, man. I ain't got nothing else to say, man. But like I said, I just wonder what was the actual holdup. We'll probably never know, but
I have a feeling it's going to be the years. I think getting that extra year and stretching it out. But the guaranteed money is a big deal too, just for cash outlay. We'll see.
But you got to look at like
we'll get the details soon enough because they have to be reported to the league, and we'll get the details of this contract probably within a day or two. I'm assuming once the team announces the deal officially, because it's got to be reported to the league. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. So with the numbers we have right now, next year and the next 2 years, you got to say this contract is going to be a deal and a steal, right?
Well, that's the thing with contracts, right? Because today's overpayment looks like tomorrow's bargain and usually turns out to be that way. But yeah, I mean, look, if he's under contract now for 4 more seasons, the contract extension's 3 years. All right. So he's going to get paid $30 million a year for the next 4 seasons. He's locked up. I would guarantee you that age 33 season is an easy out season for Washington. In terms of cap, I would guess that because of the Jaden deal coming in 2 years, you're going to see a lot of the cap stuff hit next year. Maybe even, some of it this year and certainly some of it next year. A big part of it, but not that final year.
But age 33 season at 30 mil, that's a deal. That's a deal and a steal. You know what I mean? And my whole point is, and if that's the case, why the hell did it take this long, man? Like we like you said, we're not even talking.
Well,
money.
The cash and the guarantee could be why it took so long. So let's wait to see that. Those are important pieces of this deal.
It's right where everybody said he needed to be. This is what we said from the beginning. Now, as it went on, people try to come down to 27, 28, a la Kevin Sheehan. But for the most part, when we first started this conversation, 30 was the number. Am I right?
Yeah, 28 to 30. I thought 30 would be the highest the team would go. And to me, that would be paying for not only the player, but what he means to the team moving forward. But yeah, 28 to 30 was always the range for me that seemed right. 30 being on the high end for sure. But we got to see guaranteed okay? And then we got to see what the cash is, meaning how quickly can the team get out of this without a big part of what they might owe in year 3 or year 4.
Why are you worrying about the team getting out of it, man? What have Terry not come through? Sheehan, it's okay to be wrong.
You're asking me to be worried. You're suggesting I'm worried about it. No, I'm interested in it. I'm not worried about it. I'm interested in it. I'm curious as to what this deal really is. I think in these early moments of a deal being announced that we'll find out the detail and see what it really looks like. But I'm thrilled. What are you talking about? I'm thrilled. This is what I wanted all along, for him to get a long-term deal.
Looks like, to me, it really looks like Terry got what he wanted, and I appreciate you for that, Terry. Stand your ground. And everybody else that was trashing him, and he's not that good, and we wasn't going to be okay. We can't lean on
Nobody
Debo.
ever said
Debo
he's not good.
Man, he's been getting trashed for the past week and a half.
Yeah.
And
You know what? No doubt. But nobody, you do this all the time with your straw man stuff. Everybody says he's not very good. No, that's not what people say.
Okay.
What people have said is he's not in the top 4 in the league. You know, that he shouldn't, that's not where the contract should be.
And that's not where the contract is at.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Hail to the W.
Good day to you. It is a good day. Bob,
It
Chad,
is a very
Lap,
good day.
G, Alex, Sabah, you're going to have to either stay on hold. Ben's going to join us next. We'll talk to Ben about this deal. If you're just joining us, really good news. Terry McLaurin, according to now everybody, has signed a 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. Don't forget, when we are talking Washington during this time of year, it's all brought to you nationally by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. If you're just joining us and just tuning into sports radio or even social media, Terry McLaurin has agreed to a 3-year contract extension with Washington for a deal that will be worth up to $96 million. Various reports out there about signing bonus money, guaranteed money. Basically, the team now has him under contract for 4 years at $120 million in aggregate. Ben Standig covers the team. He's joining us right now. You can read Ben now on Substack, which is what I do. I am a subscriber, and I would recommend the same for you. You can link to that through Ben's Twitter page at Ben Standig. All right, tell us what you know.
Yeah, the deal, what I know is the deal is 3-year extension up to $96 million. The up to part is key. $30 million guaranteed, or $30 million
signing bonus.
Signing bonus. Sorry. That's what I know at the moment. We'll have to see the terms. Obviously, as we know for any of these deals, the initial money that is said is not the real value, but it's the value that they throw out there for PR purposes. And that the average of $32 million a year. I mean, that's what the McLaurin side was looking to get. DK Metcalf, we've talked about a million times. His average deal is about 33. AJ Brown, another receiver from that 2019 class, is at about 32. And that's the range that McLaurin felt he needed to be in. Again, what the actual details are, that's what we're all going to be curious about. I mean, I think for most people listening to this, who gives a crap? The key point is that Terry McLaurin will be back on the practice field next week and on track to play for this team in week 1. That's what matters. I mean, you and I and others are interested in the financial details, especially considering how long this took to get to this point, but it got to this point, and that's what ultimately matters.
Yeah, if ultimately the team got kind of, paid a slight premium from where we were, but Terry looks like he got what he really wanted, that feels like a win-win to me.
I mean, again, I don't know what that this is where we were for weeks. Like, that's the part that's going to be curious. Like, what happened here that they finally got to a number that was the number that we were all pointing to from the jump. So that's why it'll be interesting to see what is really in here. Is it a lot of, incentives? Is like the 3rd year not have a lot of guaranteed money? All that stuff. We'll see. We'll see ultimately. But yeah, the key point is he's back. He's got a couple weeks to go before the season. So hopefully that's enough time for him to ramp up and get into the football shape. I'm sure he's in great general shape, but get out there with his teammates, get out there with Jaden Daniels, work on their timing, things along those lines. So, excuse me. Hopefully that's enough time, like I said, to get that done. But at least now we know that it's they're going to start that process ASAP.
Real quickly, what is this week's schedule? When will Terry be expected to be on the field practicing? Now that we know he will be, I haven't seen a schedule for this week to find out when the next big day is practice-wise.
I'll be honest. I don't know if they've given us the schedule. I know that the expectation is that tomorrow we're probably going to have a press conference with the principals involved. And then on Wednesday, because tomorrow is also the day, of course, that the roster has to get trimmed down to 53. On Wednesday, when they've now finalized the practice squad, is when we're expected to talk to Peters about everything. So that's that side of the building per se. I would imagine the team is back out there, if not tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, but we are not out there, so I don't quite know exactly how that's going to go.
Did you have any sense that this was going to happen like today or soon? Because certainly we were in the midst of a conversation about what it looked like on Saturday with him on the sideline.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, from the standpoint of it, just it just made too much sense for this thing to continue to linger. For the fact that Terry McLaurin did show up for this game, the fact that he hugged the owner a couple of weeks ago, all these things and other things my point has always been I don't see Terry McLaurin as being angry. I see Terry McLaurin as wanting his value. But the point would be because I never sensed anger. Like with what's going on with Dallas, with Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones, that seems like there's anger. This was not that. This was making a point. Hey, I think I'm worth this. Clearly the team was saying something different for a while. So, not necessarily that things were going to happen in the next, 24 hours or so per se, but it seemed like logic was still in the air, even if we were all getting frustrated, as I'm sure the principals were, about this thing not getting done. So, it's good to see that they were able to work this out. I did ask Dan Quinn after the game, why was Terry at this game and not the last game?
Yeah.
And he said, he talked about his working with the trainers and some other things and the way the schedule fell. And, I'm not going to say Dan Quinn's not telling us the truth there, but that seemed a little bit, it's a drive. It's not that far away to get from Ashburn to the field if he wanted to. But the fact that he went on Saturday now seems to suggest that maybe things were closer to being in the works than, we had maybe realized. I mean, for what it's worth, and I'm not busting, but like literally 10 minutes before this announcement, I was watching ESPN on Get Up, and Adam Schefter said nothing was happening. So
yeah, I talked about that at the beginning of the show. I saw that he had said basically nothing has happened right before the show started. So all right. So what kind of ramp up? They have this ramp up that they've been working since he came off the PUP, which is now 8 or 9 days ago. Is there any concern that it's not going to be enough to get him ready for the opener against the Giants?
I don't know. I mean, what they think in their heart of hearts, but obviously they're going to tell us, he's got a couple weeks to get this done. Again, I'm curious to see if Terry will share any details about this, ankle injury. I almost want to say air quotes ankle injury. I'm not saying he didn't have something, but I find it hard to believe that he had something that under normal circumstances would have led to him going on the PUP list. So assuming that the ankle is okay and that there's really nothing there, then, hopefully he's been doing what he has to do on his own on the side, whether that's, running routes against air or just whatever it is that he's doing. But again, there's a difference between cardio work and football work. Even if in practices you're not getting hit, you're still having to beat the cornerback off the line. You're still having to run your routes precisely. You're still having to just have general, field awareness, be on the same page with Jaden Daniels going through everything. So, I'm sure they're going to say 2 weeks will be fine. But I mean, how can any of us really know? How can even they know to some degree, right? You never know when, knock on wood, the fear is that the lack of time is could potentially lead to some sort of soft tissue injury, pull a hamstring, what have you. How are we going to know that until it happens, if it happens? So hopefully it doesn't.
I would have to think we're sitting here. We are still exactly we're 13 days away from the opener, right? 13 days away from the opener. I mean, this has to be plenty of time to ramp him up to get a normal snap count in the opener against the Giants. If this happened a week from today, I could see a limited snap count against the Giants. It's 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot in recent weeks. I became less interested in the contract and more interested in when is he going to start practicing. Because if you assume that the contract could get signed at any point before the season started, he can't start ramping up that day. He needs to start ramping up no later than right now. Even like last week, when they took him off the PUP and Dan Quinn seemed to suggest that Terry could start practicing and then he wasn't on the field last week. Okay, but so like, where are we? 2 weeks felt like the bare minimum, and that's basically where we're at. So hopefully that's enough time for them to get this done. So yes, I'm with you on that. You would like to think that this should not be an issue. It is also notable, right, that this is a team that does hurry up offenses. So there's a lot of, you got to make sure your cardio is up to speed, especially if you're a receiver running, downfield one play after another. So hopefully that's not going to be an issue for him, and he'll be ready to face the Giants.
All right. What is the receiver room going to look like after tomorrow at 4 p.m.?
Noah Brown seems to be making good strides. We saw him before the game on Saturday, running practice routes, but seems to be doing it at full speed, at a pretty good clip with Marcus Mariota throwing it to him. Dan Quinn's already said that Noah Brown's tracking to be ready for week 1. It would be great to see him out there on the practice field as well. He's participated in camp more, at least a little bit, but not a lot, and not a lot in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if he's been out there at all in the last couple of weeks, frankly. So we'll have to see where he's at, but it's obviously a great sign if they're both trending to play in week 1, considering how much we've talked about the struggles at outside receiver without those two. Deebo Samuel's had a great camp, and now it'll be exciting to see how they integrate him with these other two guys on the perimeter. Jalen Lane, the 4th-round pick, has shown good speed. He looks like a pro already. After that is where the questions, remain in terms of the depth. But, if you can have those 4 guys play at your whatever pace you want them to, whatever amount of reps you want them to have, then they're in a pretty good place no matter what's going on behind them, barring, injuries.
Yeah. There is, we'll come back to Terry. Okay. We're not done with Terry yet, but there were some questions that I had lined up for you today, because we haven't talked since Wednesday on radio last week. And I'm just curious as to whether or not you think we learned anything about who opens up in the huddle as the lead running back based on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill Krosky-Merritt not playing on Saturday, and Chris Rodriguez getting 4 or 5 carries.
I know we make a big deal about who starts. I really think at running back it doesn't matter. Or I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It's all relevant to the game plan. Like if on 1st and 10, Cliff Kingsbury wants to go 4 wide in some, then the running back might be very different than if he's going 12 personnel because he thinks that's the play to go against his team. So I don't know if it's Austin Eckler or Chris Rodriguez or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or Jeremy McNichols for that matter, who would be out there. I think if the larger point is how do we think the snaps are going to be divvied up? I think Eckler is the safest bet, but then after that, we'll just have to see. Chris Rodriguez looks like he's going to be the short yardage and goal line guy at the minimum. He doesn't have a ton of game day experience, but he certainly has more than the rookie. And I think Krosky-Merritt is certainly going to play, but I would guess, this is just my guess, is that they're going to sort of ease him into a degree. I don't know if that means 5 touches or 15 snaps or 30 snaps or whatever that may be, but I think they're going to turn this into a real committee. I think ultimately Krosky-Merritt's the one that has the more upside and therefore the one that I think is most intriguing, but that doesn't mean in weeks 1, 2, 3 they'll play him that way. So it doesn't answer your question, but I also think it's a question that doesn't really have an answer because it's a lot that's going to depend on how does Cliff Kingsbury, want to deploy his offense.
Will Marcus Mariota be the backup for the opener?
I mean, I guess that's what they're suggesting. He said the other day that he's been dealing with Achilles tendonitis. Doesn't sound great, but okay. He's, says he's trending back in that right direction. I think this is key in terms of the 53. If you're, pretty confident that Mariota is good to go, then I don't think you need to keep a third quarterback. Like I always personally would keep one, but I don't think they have a third one. I mean, Sam Hartman had a rough preseason, and Josh Johnson, great story. We all get it, but he's bounced around for a lot of reasons, and he didn't look that impressive in the last 2 games. But if there's any question about Mariota, then I think you have to keep Johnson. You can't risk, at least the way I would look at it, risk putting him on waivers, having some or releasing him, some other team coming in and saying, hey, we would like you on with us. He goes there, and now all of a sudden you don't have a quarterback who knows your system and is ready to go. So that's my view on sort of the Mariota thing. If he's ready, I think you can move on from Johnson. If not, then, if you're not positive, then I think Johnson needs to stay.
What, if anything, will we be surprised about tomorrow at 4 or before 4 p.m.?
I don't know. If you think Cleveland Farrell is a lock, you might be surprised. If you think they're going to keep 6 or 7 receivers, you might be surprised. I don't think there's a ton of surprises, though. to be honest. The running back room all of a sudden feels pretty obvious, unless they keep a fifth guy, which, if either Kaz Allen or Demetric Felton's the kick returner, you could, they may be a fifth guy, but, it feels like we don't have much, a week ago, I don't know that Chris Rodriguez, we would be saying, is definitely making this team, right? But now he is. The line play, outside of like wondering, is Sam Cosmi going to be on the active roster or stay on PUP? I feel like the 9 for me almost seemed pretty obvious at this point. But the defensive line, like I mentioned, Farrell. There's basically 14 guys I think could justifiably make the team, but only for maybe 10 spots. So how does that work? So I think those are the ones to me that stand out. I don't think there's much drama at all in the secondary, and the tight end room seems pretty set. I already mentioned the quarterbacks. So I don't know that this is going to be like big surprises, but of course that's why surprises means you don't typically know that it's coming. So then that's what we'll have to wait and see.
Is 51 going to make the team, Cahill?
Well, I put him on my 53, but I will admit that I did. But admittedly, that's a bit like, trying to be cool. I can see it, but like an undrafted free agent linebacker can 100% get cut, clear waivers, and you put him on the practice squad. No harm, no foul. So many of the choices that we talk about initially here have to do with that approach. Who do we think we can clear waivers? And then who do we, need to keep? Like I said, like with a Josh Johnson, perhaps, who do we need to keep? And then see where we are with waivers, who we can maybe pick up, et cetera, and then make a move. I thought Cahill had a pretty good preseason. To me, strong tackler. It feels like he gives you a little bit of insurance if Jordan McGee is not really ready. McGee has returned to action in recent days, but he's missed most of camp, and injuries have obviously been a part of his story so far with Washington. So I think Cahill's interesting. Also, at some point, could they keep a guy who's under 30 on this team? Like there's, if it's a battle between him and Duke Riley, who they signed recently, the easy call would be keep the veteran for sure. And Duke Riley is a guy who's been around the league, can help on special teams as well. But he's also 31. In training camp alone, they basically had like 25 guys 30 or older. And I would guess 12 to 15 of those guys are going to be on the roster. So Cahill, who's not a young rookie, he's 25, but he's not 30. So that was one reason I also kept him. At some point, you'd like to see youth be on the roster, which was at a different position than linebacker, but that's kind of where I decided to keep him on there.
All right, let's go back to Terry. What will history record about the last several months? There's still a lot of information, obviously, to gather here. And like you said, I think the majority of fans, they don't really care about this, but it is interesting, and it will be interesting from the team standpoint to see how this played out in particular. But what are we going to remember about the great Terry McLaurin? Hold out, hold in, and eventual contract extension on August 25th, 2025?
Well, I mean, I will remember being at Eastern Motors that day and thinking, okay, Terry McLaurin's doing a commercial shoot. He's going to talk to us for a few minutes. He's not going to say anything too much. And we move on. And instead, he spoke for 30 minutes, pretty passionate about why he's frustrated with where things stand. And that really, he wasn't joking around. That was a precursor to everything that followed. He, starts with a hold out, then turns into a hold in. I think I need to see, ultimately the details as to, do we get any sense as to which side had more of a, which side maybe had to give more than the other side, which side was maybe just being more stubborn based on how things ultimately went. I think the real deal, though, is what's going to happen. Obviously, we have no idea what the future is. If he and Jaden Daniels are on the same, have the same chemistry as they did a year ago, well, that's great, right? The 13 touchdowns for Terry, a fifth 1,000-yard season. He was clearly their best offensive weapon outside of the quarterback. But if he comes in and, there is unfortunately some kind of an injury that we would logically think stems from him missing all this time, or the production just isn't there, I think we're going to look at this holdout as something that, hurt the cause. But for now, it's it's another story. I do think the other thing is, with Adam Peters, this was the first opportunity we had to gauge how this organization is going to handle contracts under him. Now, they did get the deal done, but it was a bit of a knockdown drag out to an extent, in terms of how long this took. And I think that's going to help shape how we view whatever the next contracts are coming up down the line, extensions. There'll be a few guys next year who will be in the mix for such things. So I think that's another key part of this. That actually is probably the more lasting part of this is feeling that Adam Peters is not going to just simply, hey, this is cool, kumbaya, let's sign this guy. No, we have a number, and we're going to do our best to stick with that. And it seems like, my guess is that's what they did, even though the average right now shows us a $32 million average.
You say what you just said there at the end. Sorry, I was looking at something. What did you just say?
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to guess that when we find out what the real money is, my guess it's under 30. I mean, he got a $30 million signing bonus. I need to see the guaranteed money. So I don't know. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, when you get past, take out all the funny numbers, I would guess that then it'll be below 30, but I don't know that obviously for a fact.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if the guaranteed money ends up being 50-ish, 50 to 55-ish, the team won. If it ends up being 60, both won. If it ends up being north of 60, Terry won. It's like into that, area of some of the big deals. I mean, DK's is 60 guaranteed, but the team got essentially an extra year on this deal as well, right? With the fourth year. I was just making notes. It was like Terry was legit hurt. There was no doubt about it. He was not happy. The team was legit surprised. I think most of us were surprised that a deal wasn't done before camp. Then he held out. Then he demanded a trade. Then he got pupped when he held in, and we had the ankle. Then he got unpupped. Then he missed a preseason game. Then it seemed like it was heading towards something not great. One thing that never, I don't think, ever even got close, unless you correct me here, no way was he ever getting traded, right? The team was not going to trade him.
No, I never had any sense that was a real thing. And as we talked about it in real time, from the hold out to the hold in to the photo ops that he would make after practices, showing up outside with his agent a couple times, then himself signing autographs, to the trade request, it felt like they're going off of the contract negotiation playbook for a player, and the team was kind of like, cool, we'll be waiting for you when you get through the checklist. And the only thing that was left was sit out games, and that just always seemed highly unlikely. Now you're talking like $1 million per week, and as much as we say, boy, if the team, he wants 33 and the team only wants to pay him 26, whatever, it's not our money, but as he's not going to be crying poverty on any of these deals. So it's really good money. It's really good, life-changing money. It's important from that perspective to have some perspective on what we're really discussing here. So, hopefully he's clearly feels good about it. He's agreeing to this deal, and the team must as well.
Yeah, and the team has him, and hopefully has a much happier him ready to make a run here, because this team is poised to be a legitimate contender, and their chances are certainly better with him than without him, and they got him in the fold. I mean, he was going to play anyway, but it's better that he's going to play, hopefully pleased with the deal that he got. Hopefully he is. And you'd like to see either both sides feeling like maybe they didn't get the best of it, or both sides feeling satisfied, but both sides feeling the same. That makes a great deal. Thank you. Appreciate it as always.
Of course, man. Thanks. See you.
Ben Standig, everybody. I think I've got a little bit more information on this. I'll share with you when we come back. Also, if you want to line it up on the phones, have at it. Terry McLaurin in the fold for 4 more seasons contractually. All right. You add 3 on the extension to the year that he has now. He is in the fold for 25, 26, 27, and 2028. if he is still Terry McLaurin-like in 2028. Your reaction to this deal getting done, 301-230-0980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980, theteam980.com. By the way, all of our NFL talk on this show on the Team 980 is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started. Terry McLaurin is in the fold for more than just this year. In the last hour, reports started flying with Adam Schefter and Diana Rossini and everybody else that Terry had agreed to a 3-year contract extension worth up to $96 million. We'll find out the details of this deal. They are far from in, but the great news is that Terry is going to play this year, of course. That was always going to happen. But he's going to play, hopefully, as a happy camper and as a player who now, based on this contract and his age, will likely play his entire career in Washington. That's not a given. We've seen certainly at the end of careers 34, 35, 36 years old. Players end up in other players for brief periods of time. But Terry is going to be a big part of this first window for sure. The next 2 seasons with their quarterback on a rookie deal. Let's not forget that is a big part of why this deal was possible to begin with, because they have the cap space. They've got a quarterback on a rookie contract deal. There are going to be more deals to come, and clearing the way for not having to use a franchise tag next year on Terry if he has a big year could be huge for them next year, because they're going to have other contracts to negotiate. But Terry McLaurin's hold in, hold out, trade demand, the whole thing is finally over. And I would think, and it's based on some of the things that Quinn talked about last week in terms of this ramp-up schedule, this return to the field timetable, that he came off PUP exactly August 16th. So that was a week ago Saturday on August 16th. Coming off that PUP list on August 16th and their ramp-up period now with still 13 days left, I don't think that there's risk of Terry's snap counts being minimized for the opener. I would think that there is plenty of time to get him up to speed. It's not like he missed significant preseason action, right? Because the starters played on offense 4 snaps. So it's not like he missed a lot there. He missed one, joint practice with the Patriots. And he's missed some time, no doubt, in getting into rhythm with Deebo Samuel on the field, with a new offensive line on the field, with maybe new wrinkles to the Cliff Kingsbury scheme. But he's been there for the majority of it. So I think the mental part, hopefully, has been something a guy like Terry's been able to absorb. So I can't imagine that on September 7th against the Giants, he's not out there, and he's not out there for, the same number of snaps that he would have been out there had he been in all of training camp. There is enough time here, I think. Let's go to Chad. Chad, thanks so much for holding, man. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Man, dude, I was literally getting on the phone, and I told Max, I was literally about to say, this is so annoying. It's getting so annoying. I'm so sick of hearing about it. I'm so sick of my friends talking about it. And, they've all had their theories of why, and, we've all had like, oh, we're on the team side or we're on Terry's side. But honestly, Paulie asked that question, and then you were like, yeah, it had to be the years. And I've been thinking about it, and I've been wondering for the last couple of weeks. And I was wondering, based off of watching these preseason games, Terry has been there a couple times the last couple of weeks. He wasn't there at the games. I'm going to assume distraction-wise. But do you think, and I don't know if this has ever happened, or I would really love to know if somebody would ask this question in some form. Do you think maybe they waited for a little while just to see who would step up and who could be a number 2 and our number 3, just to see like, hey, do what, and then maybe that would decide on that little bit of $2 million here, maybe $2 million there. Like, maybe
honestly, I don't know. What I do know is about a week ago, they were really, at a breaking point. And, did something change dramatically in the last week? We're not going to know that until we see the details of this deal. If you're interested, in the, outcome of this deal and sort of who won, who caved more, that kind of thing, you got to wait for the details of the deal. Because I'm telling you, I think a lot of that story has yet to be told. I always felt like if they got a deal done, they would certainly do a deal to make it look as good for him as possible. They should approach it that way. It's very possible they did cave, and maybe you're right. Maybe something happened here over the last week, a player that they had expected to step up or whatever it was. Maybe it's what we talked about going back to the beginning of this, that the 49ers in general always waited towards, it was like deadlines make deals, and the longer they waited, did they benefit more times than not? I'd have to go back and check, but that was their style, and style was always a possibility. If this was just
but Kevin,
yeah,
but Kevin, don't you think we all knew? Like, we've already talked. That's why it's like it's looking like 30 years. Yeah, we got to look at the details of the contract. But for how long we were like, man, I guess I'd give him 30. My buddy's like, yeah, he deserves 30 at least the first couple years, and then the third year would be a little different because you could take some off. Most of the guarantees up front, you got to pay Jaden Daniels. So that's why it didn't seem that complicated. That's why I do get it. Like, yeah, that's what the 49ers did. But
I can't
like
answer
we were
that.
Doing,
I honestly, and I'm going to guess that literally none of you really know how complicated this was. The complication from outside looking in was always going to be kind of where he and his agent saw him in the hierarchy of wide receivers and his age. That always seemed intuitive to me that it would make the deal a little bit tricky. But, I was dead wrong from the beginning because I just figured it's Terry. They love him. They need him. It's a window. They'll figure something out, and it'll happen before camp. So the complexities to whatever was going on that really had the team at a breaking point, which I do believe, as recently as, say, a week and a half ago, and having Terry super hurt. The details of that, we've just had what's reported. Terry asking for, north of the DK Metcalf deal, the team coming in really low at the beginning. We just have all that reporting to sort of lean on, but I don't know, the specific details. And
but you know what? Let's go win a Super Bowl now. Can we get past
listen,
this
he's
here?
back, and he was going to play anyway. There was no way he was going to hold out. He was going to play anyway, but being able to play on an extended deal where hopefully he's pleased and the team's pleased is a much better overall tone and environment for him, no doubt. Thanks, Chad. Let's go to Lap. Lap, I appreciate you holding for so long. Go ahead. Lap, you there? Maybe Lap finally gave up. No Lap?
I'm here.
Oh, I got you now, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just glad we got it, man. Terry, as Ice Cube say, today was a good day. So I'm happy, man. So we get this thing going, Kevin, see what they're going to do. I'm excited, man. And let's get the ball moving, man. Because them receivers we got, them other guys look like trash, man. They ain't separate themselves none.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think Debo's got a chance to have a big year, but I think his chance of having a big year just increased because of Terry's presence on the field.
Definitely,
no doubt.
I'm so glad we got him, and I'm hoping guys to stay healthy. And let's get ready for week 1, baby. I'm excited.
All right, thanks,
Good show.
Lap. Yep. Let's go to Ian. Ian's on the phone. Ian, what do you say?
I think it's okay to just say Terry won. And of course, the details are still to be coming. But Diana Rossini and Spot Rack and everyone's like, they aren't going to go from 23, maybe to 25, maybe 27. They aren't going to do a 3.
No, that's not what Spot
number.
Rack said. Spot Rack said fair market value was 27.5, 82.50 guaranteed. The guaranteed money's always important. AAV was always an easier way for us to discuss it. I don't think I think it's way too premature to declare a victor in this negotiation. The winner is overall the team and the fan base. Clearly, that's what we do know at this point.
Yes, Kevin, that's a supposition that you are better with a second-team All-Pro player under contract. That's a given. But like I said months ago with you and everybody else, what a waste of time this is. Why this stuff can't
That's been your take
earlier.
all along, but your take was because there's like $1 million to $2 million apart. That's not what they were.
Right.
That's why it didn't just get done.
Yeah, of course, but it's it's amazing that this happens in this league where you have the entire team practicing, and yet a star player, Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin, Trey Hendrickson, and these guys missed the entire preseason essentially, and then signed at the last minute, and everybody's happy.
Well, it's really not the last minute, right? We got 13 days until the opener. The last minute would have been Labor Day night, or no, the last minute would have been Saturday before opening day, and he's not playing in the opener. That's the good news, is there is plenty of time, I think, for him to be ready to play the normal snap count against the Giants.
I agree. I think he'll be fully productive. I think he'll have a Pro Bowl caliber season, maybe not all pro again, but et cetera. And I think what prompted some of this is they looked at who their roster is, and it's, after Jaden Daniels on offense, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And, deadlines drive deals, but also their production. If they had a player that looked all worlds in practice in the few preseason games, they probably would have felt different. And they just don't have it. So Terry had much more leverage than I think anyone wanted to admit. And all the people who were like, Buddy Baker's a fool and this, that, the other.
Well, we don't know that.
He's going to take a loss on them.
It's way too early. You're interested in this. I'm very interested in this. I think the majority isn't. They're just happy he's in. But there's absolutely no way who won the deal today. You just don't know until you see the details.
Well, let me
of the
ask you this. What number would he have to have on guaranteed for you to feel Terry won? Because I think he did. I'm just curious, what's your number?
North of $60 million guaranteed. Definitely.
Okay, I'll take that wager. Yeah. I think he got north of 60.
You know what? I don't, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out, but I'm not sure. I put it this way. If it's somewhere between 50 and 55, the team won. 55 and 60, they both won. North of 60, he won. A lot north of 60, he won big. So we'll see.
I think he won. Yeah, I'll take your friendly over the on wager. I'll
At least you said I
over
think
60.
there. Yeah, we'll find out soon enough.
We'll find out.
The good news
right,
is it wasn't the last minute. The true last minute are the deals. The 49ers did deals in September, just days before the opener. We've seen the Cowboys. Now, Dak was practicing when they got the extension. He wasn't a holdout. Let's see what happens with Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson, because if that happens the week of the opener, 2 weeks before the opener is not last minute. Your waste of time, if it were a couple of $1 million, I would completely agree with. It wasn't a couple of $1 million at any point in this negotiation. We'll find out who caved the most. Sure, soon enough. I mean, I forget when it has to be reported to the league, but it will become something that everybody can read through. Sabah, go ahead.
Hey there, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call, buddy. I told you
Sabah, what's up?
it's going to take. Yeah, I told you it's going to take. This was easy. I don't know why they took so long. I told you it's going to take 4 years, 124, 31, average, but 80 guaranteed. So instead, they did 3, but that was in addition to the year he has. So essentially, it is a 4-year deal. So if it's 96, that's 33 average. I know he may not get it all. But if today, it'd
be 32.
32, sorry.
No, 4 years, 120 is 30.
Yeah.
If you go 4 years. Yeah.
Right, but I was saying 4 years, 124 is what I predicted with a guarantee at 80. 40, yeah. I told you that 3 or 4 times.
And you predicted 80 million guaranteed?
80 million guaranteed and 40 at signing. So therefore, they would average, if they cut him after the first 3 years, they would have paid him essentially 27 and some change per year because he wouldn't get that 44 million due to him on the last year. So what happens now, they made it 3 years, but they added to this year, correct? So essentially it's a 4-year deal.
Right.
Am I right there?
Well, it's a 3-year extension, but basically he's now under contract for 4 years. 120 million aggregate, that's 30 million a year, and we'll find out what the guaranteed money is and when it runs out, and how much of it is in the first 2 years.
Right.
So you were all over it. You were all over it.
All over. This is so easy. So I bet he's getting 60 guaranteed. He's getting 60 guaranteed, 30 a signing instead of 80 and 40. He's getting 60 guaranteed.
Well, if you were all over it, 80 would be the guaranteed number, right?
Well, it depends. What's he guaranteed on this first year? Like the year that's already in the plan, like not the extension.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
See?
Gotcha.
Right,
Yep.
because you're just talking
I
the
see.
extension. I was talking tearing up his contract and doing a new 4-year deal with 80 guaranteed, 40 a signing, but 124 up to, meaning he looks good at 31
Carry
a
the
year,
5.
but the team
Right.
also can get out at 27. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's going to end up being the same type thing, but it just they calling it something different because it's a 3-year extension because he's already here for one more year. So this was easy all the way. I don't know why they didn't do it ahead of time.
Yeah.
It was. It's a no-brainer. It's
Right.
not overpriced.
You should have been the mediator. You should have been right in the middle
should
of
have
it.
been.
I know.
Absolutely.
But
Because
you know what?
listen,
If they had
if
asked
he
you to be in the
sucks,
middle
that's
of it,
it.
we'd be looking to try to bring Taylor Heineke back to start this year.
Absolutely. You know
Yeah.
he was our only hope before Jaden Daniels. And you know it. You need to just tell the truth on that one, buddy. So anyway, that's what it's going to take. I'm glad they did it. I'm glad Terry's with us because he's a Redskin.
And by the way, Jaden's just okay.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury is the real star behind Jaden.
Well, let me tell you, when Jaden has a 3rd and long and actually passes the ball, that's not just a go ball, I will be a true believer. But so far now, every 3rd and long and 4th and long, it is a pass play that's really a run play. It's disguised. He goes back deep. The receivers go deep. There's a big space. I showed you the clip. He cuts through and runs for 20 yards. I don't blame him.
That was a big reveal
If
to
they
me.
can't
I had
stop it,
no
do it.
idea that they called pass plays with the idea that he might actually run, or even a designed
No.
run play.
He's
You
not
showed
even-
me a couple of those
he's
read
not even
options
looking.
too. Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about actual
Oh.
pass plays that are called or actually run plays disguised as pass plays. It's genius.
Well,
'Cause he
sure, you
pulls
can see
all
that.
the
You can see
defenders
based
up.
on the blocking,
Yeah.
but not all of
Right,
the pass
yeah.
plays are designed as run plays.
No. If there's specific ones, you can tell because he doesn't even look to pass. He literally goes it's always a deep drop. It's never a 3-step. It's a deep drop. Get everybody up. Get one through one crease. All your receivers are downfield, and he's gone. So it's genius. But, I just want that to continue because at some point you're going to have
Thank
to pass
God
the ball
he's
in
got
3rd and long.
Cliff. Thank God he's got Cliff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sabah.
I'm telling you,
Appreciate
Cliff
it.
is pretty
We'll
good.
come back. We'll finish up. I did want to play something for you guys. Dexter, DeMarcus Lawrence said something this weekend about why he didn't sign with Washington and instead signed with Seattle. Pretty interesting answer. We'll play it for you next.
All right, here's what's happening on this Monday. The nightmare is over. Terry McLaurin has signed a 3-year extension worth up to $96 million to remain in Washington, including a signing bonus of up to $30 million. McLaurin staying in Washington through 2028. And Tommy Fleetwood wins his first event in the PGA Tour after 164 career starts. No better time to do it than during the championship. He wins, finishing 2 under on the day and 18 under through 72 holes of action. Cal Raleigh sets a new home run record for catchers, hitting his 48th and 49th home runs yesterday against the Athletics to MVP chance. And the Nats, they lose their weekend series to the Phillies. Tough day for Jake Irvin as he makes it through only 2 1/3 innings, giving up 6 hits and all 3 runs. Lights out performance for Ranger Suarez, giving up only 3 hits, 2 of which came from Jacob Young through 7 innings. The Nats fall by a score of 3-2. They will make the big trip to the Big Apple to take on the New York Yankees tonight. Brad Lord on the mound versus Cam Schlittler. First pitch at 7:05. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:35 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Contract extension done. Broke about an hour and 25 minutes ago. And we'll find out the details of the deal. But the bottom line is 3 years, $96 million up to for the extension. So he's under contract for the next 4 years here in Washington. And I would think there's plenty of time for him to get ready for the opener against the Giants. DeMarcus Lawrence, who was a free agent from the Cowboys this offseason, signed with Seattle, was on that Ryan Clark Pivot podcast, and he said this to Ryan Clark about why he didn't sign with Washington.
Individual, right? We're all independent contractors, but winning a championship is the ultimate goal. You had a great career thus far, and I know that's going to be the thing that makes you say, okay, I've done enough. Mm-hmm. How close were you as we wrap? How close were you to hanging it up before deciding on Seattle?
I was pretty close, but, thankful for my family. My kids and my wife weren't ready for me to hang it up. They told me, like, why not give it another try? Had an opportunity to, sign with Washington. It's like, that's a championship contender team. And it's like, me personally, I'm not no bandwagon guy. I'm not going to sit here and, jump on the team because y'all have a good opportunity to go to the championship. It's more of like, well, what am I needed for? If y'all already got that type of team, like, y'all don't need me, So it's all about, me bringing my attitude and my personality to a team to help us get to where we need to be.
Man, thank you so much for your time, bro. It's been...
That's a weird answer. First of all, just the idea that around the league, people view Washington as a championship contender, far different. Can you imagine after all those years of not being anything close to a contender, people avoided Washington, and now a really good player is avoiding Washington because they are a championship contender. That it's hardly Kevin Durant jumping on a championship team. Thought that was a strange answer from DeMarcus Lawrence. Why wouldn't you want to win a Super Bowl? And by the way, be a piece on the one area of the team that really struggled last year. All right, we're done. It was a good day. Terry McLaurin in the fold. Contract extension done. That was fun. Thanks for your calls. Thanks to Ben. Back tomorrow. Chris Russell's next.